South African Communist Party General Secretary Solly Mapaila has again called for an inquest into Hani's death. He joins us in studio now to reflect on Chris Hani's legacy. General Secretary, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Let's begin with what was rather a very interesting reflection by Mbazi Mashilowa. You will know him very well. He wrote just yesterday through News 24 that South Africans should go beyond the call to say emulate Chris Hani and rather honor him by implementing the program of action which he spearheaded when he became SACP General Secretary back in 1991. And that was the Triple H campaign: hunger, housing,
and health,
including health. Do you agree with him? Let's start there.
Well, firstly, it's a right context that he raised, but the question shouldn't have just to reflecting on him, that he raised this matter, because he betrayed the cause of communism himself. He used to be in our central committee, Mbazi Mashilowa. So he knows all these kind of programs. So the Triple H campaign, it's a campaign that we are still implementing. For instance, we campaign as South African Communist Party in the name of Comrade Chris for the introduction of the National Health Insurance, which today has been opposed by the capitalists in this country. But we have achieved it. It was started by us as the South African Communist Party at a public level to campaign for it. When Dr. Manto Chabalala-Msimang was still Minister of Health, we were already engaging with her and we launched a full-blown campaign for our people to have access to a quality medical health care, irrespective of their status in society. Today, the bourgeoisie in this country do not want that to happen. But the fact that Parliament, under the leadership of the ANC, has passed this bill, and is a bill that we expect the President to sign soon and make it an act of Parliament to be a full law, it's testimony to the fact that we are implementing some of the campaigns that Comrade Chris had thought about. In this case, it's health. We are also involved in housing programs, for instance. As you know, over 4.9 million houses were built in this country for the poor. This is not a small figure, only. In the whole world, in fact, even in socialist countries, they don't give houses freely to the poor. They guarantee them security of housing. They can have a place to stay. If you leave that house, they put someone in there. In this case, the government has given these houses to the people to own. It's theirs. So this is the democratic government, one of the pillars of this Triple H campaign. Yeah. The fight against hunger is continuing. As you know, we launched one of the most comprehensive social security system in the country. It doesn't reach the level that we want as the Communist Party. We have long called for the introduction of a universal income grant that could guarantee the minimum wage across the board in terms of affordability for basics in society for everyone who's unemployed, because also we've campaigned for the right to work as a South African Communist Party. So in this regard, we are pushing continuously the Triple H ideas. The issue on this third one is precisely because to achieve it, you really need to tackle the capitalist system, because it is them who are holding our resources here next door at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and in their banks, the monies that can help to address poverty in this country. And I think that's the component in which, if you were to tackle that, we agree with us regarding the political will. That political will has to come to tackle capital at the core. So that capital, the way it behaves in this country, it's as if it's the political party in charge. And it shouldn't be the case. That's why we have always insisted that the political will, yes, we agree with her, must be strengthened, particularly post this election, which was our reflection today at the cemetery.
All right. So you've had the opportunity to address these three.
We have not completed them, yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Here's my line of questioning, and we're going to go through them very quickly. Let's start with hunger. Poverty has become a very serious issue, particularly in Chris Hani's home province, the Eastern Cape. Isn't that the irony? Because in that province today, you have mothers who have resorted to taking not only their own lives, but the lives of their children because of extreme poverty. That, in my eyes, and I dare say, the eyes of many South Africans, that's regression. How do you see it?
Well, your question is different from the question that we are not addressing the problem. The point is that we are addressing the problem. We have not resolved the problem. And it doesn't mean that because we are addressing the problem, it has covered everyone. We want everyone on board. We launched this campaign, for instance, for social security as the Communist Party, even in memory of Comrade Chris. When Dr. Zola Square was minister, we started this program with him. Before it was adopted and became fashionable, this question of social grants, people did think that these things just came on their own. They came as a consequence of struggles led principally by the Communist Party. That the ANC has implemented them, it's important. That poverty is still there.
I'm saying to you that...
You want me to say... I can't say there's no poverty in this country. We're fighting against it.
Yes, but it is failure. There isn't progress. People in this country should not be dying of hunger because we are a middle-income country. Yes, we have two extremes, but we remain a middle-income country. Why are people dying of poverty?
We fully agree with you. That's why I'm saying the issue, the fundamental issue is to tackle capital. Tax the rich. Tax capital. At the moment, capital has been allowed even, for instance, to take out resources out of this country. Huge resources. Capital, big corporations in this country, for instance, after being guaranteed of a peaceful transition, so to speak, they decided to take their monies abroad. Big companies went to list in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The company that exploited our resources, Anglo-American, it shifted its primary listing from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange to the London Stock Exchange. So its primary tax base, it's no longer South Africa where it is exploited for almost over 200 years. So it is that we need to tackle, because what I think is also a problem, or let me characterize it as a problem, particularly from the engagement in the media space. They don't go to the source of the problem. That is why we in the Communist Party deal with the source of the problem. The source of the problem is not government, is the capitalist system. Poverty is not brought by this government. This government is fighting against poverty. It's the capitalist system that has brought poverty in this country.
Mapaila, the capitalist system, all of these words that you use, they mean nothing to a person who's hungry in the Eastern Cape right now, because all they know is that 61 million rand was taken back to National Treasury because the department responsible, social development, for distributing aid to families that are poor and simply go to bed without having anything to eat. That's what they remember in their minds, that money has simply been taken back. That is failure.
Yeah, that part is not a general failure of government. What I disregard, or I disagree totally, is to make it a general picture. Those kind of incidences are completely unacceptable. In fact, we condemn them in the strongest possible terms. You know, I launched a campaign when I was elected into the Central Committee of the Communist Party. We launched a campaign called Spend Right. This was an NGO to assist government to spend properly so that they never have to return money back to the Treasury. It was responsive to some of these things because it happens sporadically across departments and different spheres of government, where money, because they are not able to plan properly, is not being spent according to the timelines for a variety of reasons. Yeah. It goes back. So we need a legislation, even the political will, to take up that particular money and also to punish people who underspend, because when you underspend, that money increases in inflationary value next year. That's 61 million rand next year. When we budget it to resolve the same problem, we have to budget more than that. So those kind of incidences, we condemn them, but we do not accept the generalization of these questions.
Let's hope that you are going to follow up on the people who need to be punished in the Eastern Cape, because this is no small matter. People should not be taking their own lives because of hunger.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Let's then move to health. Multiple reports from the Office of the Health Ombudsman have consistently painted a picture of a public health system that is simply falling apart. Again, I put it to you that that is regression. Yes, you speak about the national health insurance. That remains a bill, even though it's now been passed through both houses. It's waiting for the president to sign, but he's jittery about signing it.
He's not jittery, he will sign it. He had said so himself, he has said so in public. What I think is also important when we deal with this particular question, because you guys have brought people here who are condemning the national health insurance, who are supporting why it should not come in, because they use the very same excuse. What we are not saying is that the private health care system is receiving more subsidy than the public health care system from government.
Whose fault is that?
No, that's the point. That's the point of the political will that we are talking about. But this is a setup in which the transformation of this country has been difficult.
Who's the government of the day, Mr. Mapaila?
That is why, no, Goni, please, don't be that simplistic. You are senior here. Let me tell you the real issues here about South Africa. That's why we're fighting against capitalism. The people who are controlling, the corporations that are controlling the resources, that every single day have been contesting government. Every time government wants to bring in radical measures to transform people's life, they pose problems of challenges in the economy, withdrawing resources, disinvestment, and so on and so forth. And the issue of a responsible government, that is why in our message today, we have said a new pact has to be undertaken, because those that we signed the peaceful transition, which was also important because we do not want our country to be flooded with blood. People were dying on the eve of freedom. We felt that after over 300 years of colonialism, we needed to reach a point where the universal suffrage could take place, the people can democratically decide their government. At that point in time, the political transfer of power, that's why we characterize it as democratic breakthrough, not freedom. But of course, we nominally celebrate freedom, April 27, which came on the blood of this Mataya Krisan that we're talking about. So in this particular context, we have not captured economic power. We captured political power that allowed us to transform society democratically, to put a democratic constitution. All those things that we are talking about, we are taking them through the constitution. It is capital that is taking government to court to refrain from transformative laws or implementation of critical transformative laws. But it doesn't mean that there are no weaknesses in government. We must deal with those weaknesses across the board, including weaknesses that has protected finance capital in the main, which has become dominant and has actually become a parallel government.
Finally, housing. That's one of the last campaigns. It's a Triple H campaign. Housing. You have said this government has built 4.9 million houses free of charge that have been given to South Africans. And I'm sure many of them are thankful to the government of the day. But it is the same houses that simply get washed away, or there are massive cracks in those houses because of either the substandard work or the quality of the material used in order to build those houses, because those that are contracted to build them, perhaps for them the priority is to save as much as they can. That is not what Chris Hani wished for, because these are some of the things that he warned about, that people are going to live in fancy houses and drive German cars instead of looking after the very people of this country. How do you plead on that score of housing?
I'm not here to plead, colleague. But it's important that I respond to your question, because this generalization aspect, for instance, there's too much negativity that is driven by the media fraternity. And the media has to appreciate that itself has to become constructive. Because, for instance, it's not majority of those houses that are in problem. In fact, that's why it's critical we do research on these things. We launched a campaign at a time where with the ANC Youth League in Gauteng, and where the mayor, who's late, Comrade Villagas, was the mayor of Ekurhuleni. He became our High Commissioner in Uganda. We were leading this campaign with him. Tokyo Squala was Premier of Gauteng. We had to fight Mufokeng. Then was the MEC of Housing. We're fighting against the nature of the RDP houses that we're building. We're fighting as the ANC Youth League. Within the movement itself, wanting bigger quality houses. One of the challenges that they posed to us, in fact, we went to a community meeting in my own township in Thokoza. My own sister and my own neighbor in a meeting differed with us and said, no, this thing of yours is going to stall the progress that we are making. You boys from the youth league, you get boys and girls from the youth league, step aside. Government is giving us houses, no matter how big they are or how small they are giving us yachts, they are installing water, electricity. We are now leaving the informal settlements of shacks. We will reconstruct ourselves there. So they saw themselves as component of assisting government. We are unhappy, for instance, with some of the qualities, but it's not government that literally was building this. We also have felt that government needed to have a public works program that can build houses, so quality houses, rather than this contracting out programs. But in the name of transformation of our country, of diversifying the economy, we decided to support even black industries and so forth who were coming in. Even, it's not that the black industries is the one that built low quality houses. Even white companies, for instance, corporate big companies that were there previously, went on to steal from government, from the people, by building quality houses, which now remains the responsibility of government to fix, by the way.
Mr. Mapaila, I thought it was important that we stay away from politics of the day and reflect on what Chris Hani stood for and the Triple H campaign, as reminded by Mbaza Mashilowa.
We're still continuing with it. No, we don't have to be reminded by Mbaza Mashilowa. Check the SACP statement. Check us. That's the primary figure to look into whether we are implementing what Chris Hani is looking for.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
SACP General Secretary Solly Mapaila, on this day that the country looks back at a very sad day, which brought this country to the brink of civil war, many have said.